Hello everyone, William here, and it is the eve of VCT kickoff around the world. And you know what that means with the tournament season starting off, including of course the Challengers Leagues that have already started in most regions across the entire globe. It's time to start digging into some VODs and keeping tabs of what teams and players are doing all around the world. Since VCT Pacific hasn't actually started yet, I thought today we'd take a look at some cool moments that I noticed in both the VCL Japan and the Philippines regarding one of the maps that has returned with some changes. It's Icebox. Let's look at all-time compositions that we're used to seeing on Icebox. To nobody's surprise, we're seeing the Sage Killjoy Double Sentinel come out as the most picked. You've got Jett as the primary duelist. Jett's always been the duelist that everyone has leaned towards. Also because Jett has been so strong for a lot of her lifetime. Obviously, we've seen changes in the recent year and a half. But then you've got the Sage to kind of force the plan. It allows you to also block off some areas on defense as well. The Viper and Killjoy and the Sova for post-plant lineups. It's a lot of lineups. Okay, cool. Surprisingly, I actually did not realize that it was picked this much. We see one double duelist comp, and it's actually Jett Reyna. I'm not surprised that if there was a double duelist comp that we saw often in the past, that it's Jett Reyna, because I've seen it several times in the games I've casted as well. But we saw this often with teams, that had someone that was a specialized aimer, a fragger, and then the Reyna, if you're good with your dismisses, etc., it actually really allows you to kind of play around trades and such and off of contact, especially around the ace site and things like that. Down the road, you're going to see kind of Reyna be subbed in for teams that never really figured out how else to play the common meta comps. And then oftentimes if it's paired with something like the Viper or a Harbor, obviously we've seen evolutions of that in today's meta and patches as well, where the Reyna can use other abilities alongside the Leer to try to get an advantage. But otherwise, we're mostly seeing a Jett-dominated meta throughout the history, and then as we go down the line, you see a couple teams who used to like to play the Raze. Obviously, the old FPX, the current Navi, used to play a lot of Raze on Icebox as well once he really sorted that out, and Zipan showed us some really great games on that. And you see some other variations, some Reyna and Gecko sprinkled in there as well. But what I wanted to talk about today were these double duelist comps that we're seeing pop up both in VCL Japan and VCL the Philippines. So let's go through and let's just see. Okay, considering that Jett is usually the go-to, how often have we seen Jett with someone that's not Reyna and a double duelist being picked up? So we'll just go down the line. Jett and Neon. Okay, picked. Well, okay, I don't know if we can really count some of these games with the 4 duelists, but I actually think I might remember that game. But yeah, okay, so overall 5 picks, 3 to 5 picks, not much at all. Let's look at some Jett Raze. Oh, a little bit more. Okay, we're seeing a pretty standard version if you were to pick up both Jett and Raze 7 times. I don't know if there's really anything to look at here, but okay, yeah, there are some variations with Phoenix as well and a couple other options. Obviously, Yoru, some teams have picked up in the past as well. But generally, double duelists not really picked all that often in the grand scheme of things, right? I mean, the most common pick, 206 picks. Then the Jett Reyna, okay, 160. Again, I'm personally a little surprised. I would have thought the Harbor being subbed in for the Sage would be higher, but I guess Harbor actually hasn't been out for that long, so it all makes sense. So let's dive into the meat of things. First match we're looking at is Oasis versus NAOS. This was on the opening day of Challengers Philippines, and NAOS shows up with an interesting composition. It's double duelist, but with Raze and Jett. And Mosier is playing the Raze, which also caught my eye a little bit here alongside Ja. But if you aren't familiar with these teams, you should be familiar with some names like Dubstep, who used to be part of Team Secret, and then Emin, who was on the 6-man roster for RRQ last year in VCT Pacific. But all that aside, all right, now so they bring in the double duelists alongside, I guess, the remaining kind of standard composition of Sova, Viper, and Killjoy, whereas Oasis is going with the latest evolution that we used to see on Xbox, which was bringing in the Harbor instead of the Sage, where you can still go for some of these forcing, the plants on the attack, but you have the ability for the double controller to really cut up the map a bit more, fight for space a little bit slower one by one. You still have the Cove even for retakes, right, to go for the diffuse and things like that. Now, what impressed me about NAOS in this matchup is the fact that they really understood the mission of what should you do if you're going to pick double duelist? And I believe this applies to pretty much any map. It's the same thing on something like Split as well. As common as double duelist has gotten on that map, especially with how hard it can be to attack, given the map's formation, if you're just going to go default heavy, then double duelist doesn't really shine, right? I mean, you want to really utilize it. Does that become meta in the grand scheme of things or not? That awaits to be seen. But let's take a look at how NAOS focuses onto their composition. So first off, they've already cleared green. They waited for the toxins to run out for Poison Cloud. They throw out the recon to try to check basically behind yellow. It gets taken out, but it does get one ping. So they have some information that it should be relatively safe. Boombot goes out. And now you see the Showstopper jumping through. So Showstopper being used on the flight path. And we see the rays jumping all the way into the site. I apologize for the quality right as I paused. Now, you've already sent the Boombot to check under close as well. So it technically should have alerted you or at least started pushing someone out. So the rays, given that you're flying through with the blast packs, should be somewhat safe unless you just get absolutely domed in the air. And now when this map change, as you're going through, you just have this side to look at before you're able to clear, right? You can do a quick swivel onto the site. Let's play it out just a bit more. The Showstopper lands, and we just heard the jet dash in. So as the Showstopper clears basically under, gets you vision through the toxic screen, the jet then dashes up into the nest here on B site. And now you have a high-low setup. You've also got the Showstopper, which is going to push people out. There aren't extra angles where they can play Ring Around the Rosie anymore. They actually have to just be pushed out here, or be waiting in Snowman. So you're helping check all angles. One other thing to note here is the attacking toxic screen is purposely planted a bit deeper into the site. So that way, they can both break in through the toxic screen and clear that out with the Showstopper, right? It's not targeted here where if you go through the toxic screen you still have Snowman able to sight anybody who's trying to dash through. This covers your entire jump in towards the inner half of the site, and then you've got a high-low and a cross angle setup. Their own snakebite does land right as Mosier lands there as well, so that's a bit unfortunate. When a couple trades come through, Showstopper really just being held as long as possible. They already spotted the Killjoy earlier onto the other side. Now, as this is happening, because they have the double duelist plus the Showstopper, so they have a lot of explosive power to execute onto the site, and they're pushing people back, we had Nexi going all the way, sneaking all the way through A site. 35 seconds left, still just enough time to rotate. And they draw out the Reckoning because the spike doesn't quite get planted, right? And you know, they're kind of giving this idea that Oasis, okay, we haven't taken entire control of it. The Showstopper didn't get any kills. It was only kind of this, 2-for-1 trade. And then the Reckoning comes out because they think, okay, we should have enough time to stop the plant. But the Showstopper was the only thing. The jet and the rays are the only thing that went into the site. Everyone else is still waiting to make sure that it has been cleared out. And if not, you've got the backup plan. At the end of the day, they're going to be able to rotate, and they're going to be able to take over most of the site. It actually happens that Oasis actually wins this round because they have a great retake using Xavi's lockdown. There's a whole sequence. I recommend you actually watch it. Really good mind games coming out from Xavi, and I believe Kelly S was the other one remaining. But I think the idea to break in, right, committing to the double duelist, saying we want to go for this high-low timing, we want to go for the cross angles, and then we want to have the Showstopper to push everyone out. We want to believe in the fact that we can trade. Good. You're leaning into your composition. Now, the next round is round 11, and we're going to see something similar here. You'll notice, if you're watching, you have the Showstopper online for Mosier. They are leaning towards the B side. We've seen this somewhere before. Now, this is a round where I'm like, okay, this is a little iffy, because they send the drone out, but they don't quite have the entirety of yellow cleared. But they're going to commit to their plan anyway. They say, okay, we're safe to go all the way up towards the site. They get ready for it. The toxic screen comes in so that they can't spot anyone as they're popping out of their own toxic screen. Now, you'll notice Mosier a bit of a blast pack miss here. Hate to highlight it, but I'm just saying it did happen. But what is good is they're still very committed to this timing. So the recon bolt is sent all the way deep into Snowman. Ideally, what was supposed to happen if you didn't miss the blast pack is you're supposed to be able to go through your own toxic screen as right after the recon bolt lands. So they missed that timing a bit. Well, let's let it play through. Backs out, wants that angle. There's the showstopper. And then suddenly, this is just too many people for poor Wild Oreo to deal with. Okay, so there's several things that are happening here in an immediate sequence. First of all, obviously, you hear the showstopper being activated. You have the toxic screen. The recon bolt had just landed. Now, let's forget about the fact that the timing didn't work out, but the recon bolt had just landed behind you. So you have to clear that if you're hiding in Snowman. Then you see a cloudburst coming out. And then, let's play this out a little bit slower so I can pause. You see a raise pop out above the cloudburst, right? So originally you were aiming right where the cloudburst was coming out to see if they're dashing out from there. But then this raise pops out from above to the left. So you're like, okay, now I got to worry about the raise. And then the cloudburst and pops, and the jet dashes into it as raise jumps once again to maintain their momentum and to make sure that they're not lining up together on the ground. And then they get the easy kill with the showstopper. It's not anything crazy, right? Okay, if you have double duelist, you've got the showstopper. It seems all fair enough. But what I do want to mention is the fact that, okay, with the double duelist, and now with the fact that this part is blocked off on Icebox, you don't really have to worry about this entire area. You can really just kind of keep sight lanes here. Once you get the plant, you can safely back out. You actually have some more options of keeping control of the site area by taking over Snowman. Now, obviously, it's going to be rough to do it alone. You're going to want either a double or triple team so that you can always trade. But basically, you can pressure this and then still have some post-plant capability to draw out for time. That makes the retake take a lot longer if they want to come in from here and have to battle, or they're going to have to go for a pinch, at which point you could be waiting and peeking from yellow. And there's a couple more options here to deal with, because you don't have to worry about the potential double angles that they're coming in through here easily enough. Like, you could hold on to the site a little bit better as well. Now, here's another neat idea that you can really commit to if you have double duelists. Now, yeah, bear in mind, Oasis is on a half buy, so they do have weaker weaponry, but they do have the Blade Storm, and it is the last round of the half. NAOS is fairly ready for it. They get the early kill, and then they get the kill onto Kelly S as well. Now, what you're about to see is NAOS they just push up the tempo, right? Stack or not, we have more members now. But something I want to mention is Dubstep gets one trade. Now, if it was, again, yes, weaker weaponry, obviously Dubstep's only holding on to the Sheriff, so it all works out. But the reason I think Jaw's able to dive in so quickly is if you keep an eye on the minimap, just keep your eye on the A site here. As we see Jaw just commit to dashing in, you hear the blast packs happen right away. And Mosier's right behind him and lands right above as Jaw gets the kill. So even if Jaw didn't get the kill, Mosier would be there to make sure that they're not losing that tempo. There's quite a few times where what you see happening is, okay, we got one kill or we pushed them back, so the jet goes through. But if it's only the jet, oftentimes, unless you're in there fragging everybody, it starts to look like a bit of an overheat, because if you get traded immediately in the site, for instance, like, you might still be up like 4-3 in terms of numbers, but you haven't really gained anything, right? You haven't really gained that space. You haven't kept control of it. But with the double duelist, you have the numbers advantage. So even if the jet does get picked off and traded, you still have someone to trade back once again right off of that. And that also buys time for the rest of your teammates to catch up. So again, things like this where you can just confidently say, turn it up to 11, let's chase through, works a lot better if you have the double duelist, because you have someone else to kind of bridge that gap between the first line of attack and the second line of attack. Now we jump into the second half. This is going to be round 17. Now, Oasis just had their timeout. NAOS, on the other hand, is the team with two ultimates. Not that they really need the Blade Storm, because they still hold on to the Vandal for Jaw, but they have two ultimates. They've got the Showstopper and the Blade Storm, right? They've got full buys across the board. On the other side, not so much. Now, generally, I'm not a huge fan of pushing out on an anti-eco, although there are two rifles saved over on this round. So you can see on the minimap, NAOS is ready for a push out with the double duelist. And they're going to commit to this. And again, I think it's very important if you're playing double duelist that you want to commit to the fact that you want to play off contact. You're going for fights, you're going for trades. And then also, the reason I think they can do this is you also have two members that have escapes. It's important to note that it's not Arena. I would say even Euro, obviously the gate crash, not as instant. You need to have it set up, etc. The Phoenix doesn't have a quick escape. It's things like ISO, obviously, no quick escape. Basically, you are kind of... you are kind of free to move up if you get contact. Again, unless you get picked off right away, and that's part of the caveat whenever you're playing for contact, you can always dash back out. You can then blast back out and then send, the cloud burst and the boombot, things like that to delay. There is an escape options. If things go sour, there is a backup plan. You don't really have that option, right? If it's an initiator and stuff, basically one person has to set up for the other, and then you go for the trades. But here, you can both kind of go for contact and play off of each other because you know that you have an escape. Now, at the end of the day, they're not going to find anyone. So it's not going to matter too much. But I think especially also with the fact that they have the showstopper, it says, okay, if we do find someone, if Jaw runs into contact first, I can activate that right away, try to force out a multi-kill, things like that. At the end of the day, Oasis, they're going to get into the site, and now it just says, okay, let's play for retake, because two of our members are way back where, Emin, of course. It helps that you get the first pick, and you're starting to just do some chip damage, which you'll get a little bit of. Now, we still have the showstopper, the drone being used to make sure they're clearing out close, and just clearing out under. They catch sight of the harbor. The raise is now here. Now Jaw has already started to clear close to screens. Now Jaw's going to get picked off right away. You see the kill feeds start to pop up in the upper right. That's Jaw going down as he's trying to push their own toxic screen. But while this is going on, so Jaw has already pressured the left side on the map, right? Going around Nest on A, and somewhat cleared right under the site as well. Coming out of Heaven on A, you see the rays jump out with the showstopper. So again, you're creating two different angles to strike on the retake at the same exact time. You have the showstopper to pressure, and then you've got a high-low as well. So there's just so much that the attacking team has to kind of pay attention to. So many different sight lines that they're going to have to get. And again, unless you do get instant headshots right away, which can happen, it's just a lot of space you immediately get. He even gets the kill onto Dubstep, which helps. So while Jaw is now down, now you say, okay, the site itself is clear. Now we can focus on pushing out against the rest of the postman. Again, there's a caveat, weaker buys on the side of Oasis, so you have a bit more freedom there. But I just think that they understand, okay, if it's double duelist and we both push out from the other side, our strength is we push in strongly with the double duelist on the retake. Here's 2 rounds in a row where it further emphasizes the fact that you can play greedy with double duelists, and I think you should, because again, your composition revolves around the fact that you want to play off contact. The only thing is, the reason I think the Raze has more legs than the Reyna, as it always goes with Reyna can only really add that value, especially on defense, unless you get the kill. You can only do it if you get the kill, not unless, if you get the kill. For Raze and Jet, these are two where you have the mobility. You can either create more space, you can go, both of you can go for first contact, you both have escapes. Again, if you get domed right away with a Vandal or anything that gets an instant headshot, then sure, then it's the same story as Arena. But for Reyna, like, even if you don't get headshot right away, unless you're the one getting the kill, you're not really creating that much space, right? It all relies on that. Now, on attack, there's some neat things you can do with the leader, but on defense, not as much. And even then, on attack, you'd have to revolve around another agent like a Harbor. But here, we're not really seeing that because both of you can just rely on your own skills to create contact, to create space. And what you're going to see is these are 2 rounds in a row where NAOS greeds for an aggressive push out from a site, and they'll get away with it. And watch Mosier up on pipes, not able to get the first kill, and immediately both of them back out after getting the first kill onto Marky, who has his Blade Storm activated. Look at Mosier not greed for this kill, right? He spots Marky. Let's play this in slow motion, because I honestly think this is very good. I almost turned up the speed from Mosier. Goes for the shots, doesn't get the instant kill, sees the blades come out, and now we see Marky jumping up. He's like, okay, I can't get this kill, but what do I have? I have an operator in my back pocket sitting right below me who's going to peek out. The fact that they have this trust and the comms to do this is also impressive. So he then blast packs out, And right as he blast packs out, because now they think they've exited, you see Jaws just waiting, peeks out, gets the kill, and then Jaw also doesn't greed and dashes right out. Listen, it's not that common that we see two duelists playing double duelist, playing off of contact, but then also knowing where to draw the line. Now you can back out, and then you still have, you still have the Boombot, you still have a blast pack, you have other things to buy time on the site. Boombot in the hands of Mosier right away. You see the Boombot go out. Now the operator can reposition. You've already slowed down the push because the Jet is now down, right? It's not a double duelist comp on the other side. And you've backed out. But again, the reason you can do this confidently is because both of you have escapes. If one of you was a KO or something like that, sure, you can try to take advantage of the flash, but again, if you don't get the first kill right away, the trades are going to be slow. And even then, if you're the one trading back after your teammate dies, not as great of a result, right? Because then the attackers can still try to push through. But here, you both have escapes. Whoever gets first contact backs out, the other trades backs out again. I like that commitment. And what's interesting is they do it again. Here is the very next round, round 20. But what do you see? Okay, now it's Jet ready to ride the zipline. Throw the paint shells all the way through. Now they're not escaping this because he hasn't really pushed all the way into Nest before, but now he dashes out and the Mosier peeks out of the cascade. The timing is impeccable. Play it in slow motion. All right, drone comes out, so Jaw's like, this is my timing. Activates Tailwind, gets one kill. Which, by the way, the fact that he is able to get the kill onto Kilias, because you gotta pull the aim down. But anyway, he reacts to it first because he sees it first. Gets the kill, instantly Tailwinds out, and they're like, oh, the Jet's out. We didn't get the Jet. So there's already just so much that you have to be aware of now if you're Oasis. And then Mosier's already waiting in front of the cascade. So this distraction, right? And then, of course, the drone not able to clear Mosier as he's able to kind of get right through the cascade. They don't spot him. Just the timing of it, the ping pong back and forth. And as I was watching this match, I was just like, this is how you need to play double duelist on defense. You have to play off contact. You have to have trust that you can escape if you need to. And you have to just have these variations, the high lows, right? And then the offbeat timings to trade. Again, trading off of not dying, but simply contact. Get contact, back out, your teammate trades, back out together. Get a kill, back out, your teammate gets another, back out together. It's things like this. If you're going to play double duelist, I firmly believe this is what you should be doing. And because otherwise, your other options aren't that strong, right? Your retakes just simply aren't going to be as strong as someone else who has more utility to deal, to provide. Granted, I do think among the duelists, Raze obviously has some healthy utility for retakes with paint shells and boombots. But unless you're taking over space, as we've seen NAOS do even just in these handful of rounds and more, on defense, you're not really doing much unless you're like waiting and getting kills with the operator. But there are other times where they actually have like their operator or something like the outlaw watching all the way down, and then you're still able to push out because you have someone with escapes. It doesn't always work out, but just a commitment to this idea of we picked double duelist, we understand what we have to do, and they're not overly greeting it every time. I think it's a good showing. Now, there was another match that happened, this time in Challengers Japan, where we saw another double duelist comp come out, this time on the side of Reject, but this one's a little different. We've got some extra spices sprinkled in here, because first of all, we have Neon, who I've always wanted to see more of on Icebox, but then we have the Breach to go alongside it. So, like, Reject isn't just playing off of contact, they are forcing contact with this composition, right? You've got the fault lines, etc., and if you're looking at the minimap, you should have an idea of what's about to happen here in the first round we're taking a look at. Now, this was against Scars, and we are going to start with round 5. And they do this quite a few times on defense, but basically what they're going to have ready is they're going to have the ability to pressure around B garage with the fault line all the way from kitchen or mid, and then they're able to kind of push up aggressively and take space. They have some different variations to do this, whether they use the fault line first or not, right? Whether they push all the way through garage, whether they wrap around it first. There's variations, which is good, but their idea is, okay, we have this fault line, it can help take over garage. So instead of focusing heavily on A, we're going to always try to kind of pressure this B side and push them to the other part of the map. So let's start with this one. Also, interesting part, the drone comes out and immediately gets shot down from on top of yellow with the outlaw. And this is, again, it just kind of showcases what the outlaw can do. Takes out the drone, immediately fires another in case someone swings off of it. A little different than what we'd be used to with something like the Marshal or the Operator. Just thought I'd note that. Now, the fault line was ready, doesn't find any need to use it because they're not spotting anyone jump peeking or anything like that, so they just hold on to it. Now, they've already kind of emptied the A site because they haven't pushed all the way out into garage, but they're kind of just saying, okay, we've got Cypher setups, and Reject knows the game plan. We're retaking on A. You got the camp set up above screens, you got tripwires throughout the site, you've got one on pipes as well. You see the high tide coming out, you're just kind of waiting with the cam, and then he actually is going to tag someone, hops off it immediately, and even gets a kill. Halls, I don't think he really needed to go for that kill. I think he could have waited, but either way, they're able to push them back out. Use the fault line and the aftershock, try to empty the site. Now you're waiting, spy cam still available. You ping one, the neon's starting to come up through. The jet is ready for the retake as well. So you've already tagged one. The jet creates space first. Now I do think, in a very ideal world, the timing of this retake could have been slightly better with the jet, because the jet is kind of in no man's land here, but the relay bolt helps clear at least right under you, so it pushes them out. But the jet does create the space for Brian to then just waltz out and go for a wide peek, gets the first kill. During that, now you have the rest of them trying to pressure the other side of the site. So with the fault line clearing out close, or at least, making sure that they can't fight properly, then the relay bolt again to help clear out somewhat right under you for the peek out of heaven. The jet then dashes out, makes sure there isn't anyone that's stunned right inside the site. Unfortunately dies, but gets contact first, so Neon's able to get the kill. Right afterward, Muto comes in from around screens as well. The timing of it is very good, and all of this partly thanks to the Cypher as well. Afterwards, they all get great kills, and the Cypher just has a little fun with this opponent there as Brian pushes up with the shorty. Now here's another fun little round. Oh, we see the breach lined up again on the minimap towards B garage. We've got the neon ready to go, and note that we do have the overdrive ready for neon. Now this round I have some problems with it because the idea is neat, and actually Brian kind of goes to town here, but you've got the Cypher setups on B, so okay, you've got a backup plan. But what we're going to see is they actually use the overdrive right away. So if you're committing, because the whole point of an overdrive is to get kills and keep going, right? The idea is to keep going. That's the whole point of that ultimate. Instead of having someone to potentially trade, having the Cypher here as a backup plan, I'm like not entirely sold on it. Now I know their buys aren't good, etc. But let's just play it out. And, this might be one of those things where it's just hindsight 2020. But all right, neon creeps up, the fault line comes out, immediately activates the ultimate. The relay bolts are great because it holds them back. That way you can only focus on that one angle. Sends in another relay bolt and the fast lane just to keep them tied up. We got the spike down as well, and Brian is just buying time. Actually peeks in here and gets a second kill as well, which I think is more than you could have asked for. Now, during all of this, the jet had pushed up and updrafts onto conveyor. Here's where I'm starting to be like, I don't know if this is really what you wanted. And I think this is partly, again, because you've got the Cypher set up on B. So, okay, at the end of the day, you want them to come B, waste their time, not able to win the round. But if that's the case, why is it that the neon's pushing B? Probably because that's where you have the setups for the fault line. But you don't have the weaponry here. Sure, you have the Vandal in the hands of Akame, but the rest of them don't really. So you're really just hoping that the jet gets kills here. And I don't know if you really needed to go that far. Because the idea, if you're pushing out here, is they would go around to the other side, right? Or you crash altogether and you're getting multi-kills. So I don't think it really works out in the grand scheme of things. Unfortunately for Akame, his updraft actually got heard by Luma as well. So they are fairly well aware of this. And then he actually greets for the kills because that is why he was there. So I don't really blame him once he commits to it, but you get traded and then now you're pretty weak. Sure, the numbers are low on the other side, but I don't really agree with how it all pans out. But again, that part might be a little bit of a hindsight analyst in me. But the whole idea of pushing out with the fault line and the overdrive, and then using the relay boats to really just keep them tied in there, make sure you're going for just 1v1 peaks, I think it's great. Now, the very next round, they are set up on B site for another push out. Are we starting to see a trend here, right? If it's jet raised, you've got the high lows, you've got the escapes back into the site on A. And now with the not just the neon, but also the breach. I think the other reason it works well for neon here is you've got good ways to use the fault line, like different angles you can use it on, and then obviously you have ways to sprint out and slide out. Whereas on A, you immediately have several corners, so it gets a little tough. But at the end of the day, the big part of this is the breach as well to help support. So they are committing to another push out, right? The breach is ready. And we hear the drone come out, and they're just going to say, okay, the fault line had already been sent out. Just goes through. They're tied up in garage, and through all of that, because the neon has dashed out, Akame has been able to kind of sneak in around garage. Now look at Brian's positioning. Instead of just saying, okay, let's commit and like crash into this, because if you swing around here, it's two very different angles. You're eventually just fighting two different 1v1s or 1vx's. So instead of like committing together, and then if you both commit to one side, obviously you could get wrapped around. So you plant Akame, and Brian is now just waiting. Just waiting, and they're gonna just go for contact. Brian's waiting to see if they peek out from the other side. You see the toxic screen, so you send the relay bolt. Okay, the relay bolt comes out and tells them like, no, the neon's still here, but we're just trying to make sure you guys don't get through. Don't even think about turning on that toxic screen. Plants Akame even deeper. Akame gets the first kill. Tailwind activated. Trying to go for some contact. The cloudburst draws him out, and then the relay bolt again to help the escape. So this is an interesting version where not only do you have two duelists who could have their own escapes, but the relay bolts can be used kind of like an initiator, right? So you're able to plant the jet in deeper, and then you're able to make sure that they get out alive. And then you still have two people who can reposition on a snap, and you're able to hold on to the site. During this entire thing, because they've been able to pressure that so deeply, all you have to do on the A site is just anchor down. You've got the cam, you've got tripwires, the Cypher is just chilling out. Now, at the end of the day, Brian does get picked off, but you still got Akame here. You've got the breach here for backup as well. It does help that they win the rounds, or they win the fights rather, but the fault line there to keep Akame alive. And Akame has some really good shots initially. Stays alive as well, again. Doesn't get too greedy. And during all that, I mean, Yoshi was trying to get through, but gets spotted, has to break the trip and run out. And Halls just says, okay, they've backed out. And then Gangpin's here to help on the B site. So all in all, a really good setup here, and not really going out of their own blueprint of, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to go in, get contact, and then we have a way out. We can still hold that yellow. We still have two members. We have the numbers advantage. And the part I like a bit more about Reject's composition is that they have the Cypher, who can really just anchor down a bit harder, I would say, but also make sure that you're just kind of drawing a line on the map and then saying you don't get beyond this point, and for the retake I have my cam ready so that I can set up for my double duelist. The Killjoy offers different capabilities, obviously the lockdown as an ultimate, but also in some ways you can draw out more time with things like the nano swarm. You have better coverage of mid and things like that. But if you are just focusing on like get contact on one side, get some fights going, and try to push them to your side and just wait, I'm actually kind of liking the Cypher. All right, round 16. Those of you who have watched this, you know very well what's coming, so let's just play it out. This one speaks for itself. Nice lurk into mid. What was that? You hear the Japanese casters? Whoa! That's exactly what everyone would have said when you watch this. Okay. They turn up the tempo. All right, watch this in slow motion. This is the dream scenario for a double duelist entry, by the way. First of all, you send the relay bolt. Relay bolt is good, right? It clears out on both sides of the box here, on the generator, whatever we're calling that. And then you start running. And the jet following right up behind. And just the timing of this, the speed of this is too fast for the toxic screen to come up. And then this is the most impeccable timing I have ever seen from any type of two duelists. And I think it works because it's a Neon, because it's infinitely harder with a raise, in my opinion, alongside the Jet. But first of all, the Neon slide right as you're able to come around the corner, that's also very good. So props to Brian. But as Brian is coming out, then Akame is up here, right? And just, I mean, everyone knows what we're looking at, right? This, like, I don't know if you can even, like, necessarily practice this to perfection, but just the fact that this timing works out like this. I mean, this, to me, this reminded me of that Avengers retake that DRX had shown, and now a lot of teams have kind of found their own variations out of Heaven on Haven A site. It's things like that. Like, timings like this don't happen every day. And the fact that you were able to get this, and then of course Brian has the stinger, so it works out even better. He's able to get the first kill. But either way, I mean, just there's so many layers to this, because Brian, first of all, slides right at the same time, so he's not going to get so easily picked off. On the slide, your headline goes lower as well. The Jet is already above the toxic screen, and then now you've got a high-low setup, and then because of where you both started your dash and your slide, you still keep this distance, by the way. It's like some weird form of synchronized swimming, but it's like flying. I mean, how do you even... Here's the thing. There's almost nobody in the world who could get the double kill here. I don't think. I just don't think so. It's crazy. I mean, enough said. I mean, this is the dream if you have double duelists. Turn up the tempo, get a synchronized entry, and you're both sticking close to the wall. You already sent the relay boat, so you're just trusting that whoever here is stunned up and not going to get the kill, especially as you're sliding in, because obviously we've seen time and time again, if you just kind of walk around a corner as they're stunned, sometimes they're still to get the headshot. And all of this just works out so beautifully. Now, there's a bonus to this, because I'm starting to think that Reject is really in on this composition. Now they're going to go for the B site, all right? They're looking to turn up the tempo. You can already tell, okay, fault line follows all the way through onto the toxic screen. So that way, anybody hiding right in front of the toxic screen or anyone hiding right behind it, things like that, they are stuck. They will have to have backed out. The fast lane is being put up. Once again, let's let it play. Oh, there's the Viper. Spotted him. Oh, no, not fighting him. Hello. What? The cool part about this, okay, first of all, aside from Brian's antics, which are, I mean, this is so rough. Look at this. Sends the relay bolt. I think he means for it to bounce back as well. But I don't think it does, because it hits the grating. Yeah, it just doubles up on the ramp. So it doubles up in the corner. But either way, he had spotted the Viper, right? And he's just having some fun. Just says hello. But here, I'm going to turn up the sound, because what's important here is the sound. You hear that? You can notice it if you watch the minimap as well. Let's play it in slow speed. Neon's jumping in. And the Jet dashes in as well. So what this does, let's make sure. You just spotted the Viper. Okay, this is before the Jet dashes. You just spotted the Viper. You dance back into your fast lane. And then the Jet dashes in. Okay, and you're still peeking out. So the Jet, in case they are spamming the Jet, right, you're still creating a distraction. You're still saying, keep your eyes on me, keep your eyes on me. But you don't take the fight right away. You wait for the Jet to have ended their dash. They're still walking through the fast lane to create a different angle. You see them walking a bit further here on the minimap. And then you turn around and take the fight. And you have a great slide backwards. But the thing is should Brian have not survived the fight, if he didn't find the kill right away, which, by the way, very impressive for him to keep tabs on that, Akame now comes out from an angle that's not easy to expect if you're Alan, because you heard the dash in, you're like, okay, well, where's the Jet? I'm not able to get the shot onto the Neon. The Neon's not stopping, so I don't want to like waste my time trying to like follow this hopping bunny and then getting killed by this Jet who I know just dashed in. So you're trying to pick and choose. There's just so much you have to process. Again, Brian has some great acrobatics, but what I thought was impressive was the fact that he waits for the Jet to be able to trade, because otherwise Jet takes time to take her weapon back out once she lands from her tailwind. So Brian is having faith in his own acrobatics to stay alive and he says, okay, now the Jet is ready to fight. I take the fight now. Just really good teamwork and faith in each other. And again, oftentimes what you see from teams who have double duelists, or just basically very aggressive teams, or very aggressive players, I should say, is that one person says, okay, like, I'm going to go for the fight, and the other person just like isn't ready for the trade. And this happens a lot if you don't have double duelists, because the other agents just simply cannot catch up to the same speed. But now that you have both a tailwind and a dash, or, you know, with the sprint, or the tailwind and the blast packs like we saw earlier, now you're able to match each other's speed and make sure you're always ready for a trade. So those are all the rounds that I picked out, but there's still quite a few moments that we saw from both of these teams as well in how to use the double duelist here on Icebox. And in general, I think good lessons on how to use double duelist in general, right? You have to commit to taking contact. You have to commit to that, and you have to have some other plan of either retakes with the double duelist or some other form of hard anchoring and delaying on the other side, whether it's things with the Viper and Killjoy or something like the Cypher as well. Is this going to become meta? I'm not so sure. However, I think it's a fair way to combat the potential stale, slow meta that we've seen on Icebox before, because now it's not just Reyna who has to get kills, but there's this ever-looming threat of all these different ways that they can push out together, right? And have these dual angle trades ready, dual angle contacts ready to go, especially even on the defensive side. And then on the attack, I mean, the speed variations you can have is absolutely amazing. So I think it's a pretty decent way, because also if you push out from one site, it kind of pressures a lot of the potential post-plant setups as well, so you're not as comfortable just dawdling around waiting for the lineups. So I think there's some merit to it. Now, obviously, at the end of the day, if you ever want to play aggressive with anything, you have to be able to hit your shots. And that, I mean, that goes for anything, right? It's Valorant, it's an FPS. We've all heard the rant. You're going to get shot, right? So you have to be the one to do the shooting. But assuming that at the top level of play that you should have the confidence and you should all be on somewhat of a similar level, except for certain individual exceptions that we've all seen and heard about, I think it's worth a shot. I think it's a good idea to try to combat that. Now, I think this is going to be one of those styles where it's like, okay, this can be a counter if we're used to it, if we have the timing and things like that. I don't think this is going to be the main way to play Icebox, but I think it's going to be something that kind of keeps each other on their toes. And I'd be very curious to see if any team, which teams from VCT Pacific might show us a double duelist comp. That's not Reyna. That's not Reyna. I'm not counting the Reyna comps. Who's going to show us double duelist comps here on Icebox? I love to hear guesses. I know this video is going up right before kickoff starts, but if you have any guesses, let me know down in the comments below which Pacific team will be showing off the double duelist comps first here on Icebox, and who do you think is going to get a win with it? Also, do you think any of them are going to use Neon like Reject did? Let me know down in the comments below, because quite frankly, I think Paper X is an easy guess, but aside from that, I'm not so sure. I'd be very interested to see, though. I think we have some options ready to go. That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Once Pacific kickoff begins and the VCT season is well underway, we will continue to look at different teams, different plays, different maps every week here on Scoped In. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like the video and also subscribe, turn your notifications. All of this helps so much to get more videos out there, more of my content out there. And for now, I'll see you all on the VCT broadcast.